Hello and welcome. I'm Darren, and today it's happened. So, RDNA 4 is here. The 9070 and the 9070 XT have launched. I don't know if everyone's just seen the AMD presentation. I'm going to give my thoughts. I'd actually already done a video this morning, and I didn't even actually realize it was released today. So I just wasted half an hour of my life. I was actually in the middle of uploading a video which would have been pointless. And basically it was about whether I intend to buy the GPU or not. And I have kind of mixed emotions. So you watch the presentation, we've kind of got an idea of performance and we've kind of got an idea of cost. I'm going to say kind of, because there's some odd things going on there. £50 between, or $50 between both of them. Someone explained to me what that is about. Either there is no chance that the 9070 XT is actually going to be available for the $599 that's being obviously rumoured, or sorry, now announced, or they have no intention of selling the 9070 non-XT. Which one that is, I have absolutely no idea, but $50 apart. If you can buy the XT for $50 more, I do not know why you're not going to do that. Now, I know, I don't want to sound unfair. I know, obviously, to different people, $50 is a lot of money. If you can afford $550 to spend on a graphics card, then I don't think you're that tight for putting food on the table. So at that point, I'm going to say, are you not just able to even wait another month and save up an extra $50 for the far better graphics card? Strange. I personally, at this moment in time, believe, from what I've seen up until now and from what I've seen now, is that these graphics cards, when being built by the partners, were obviously expected to be sold for a lot more money than what they're being sold for now. I'm going to imagine that AMD have done some sort of deal with one of the board partners to bring their model down to the $599. I'm going to imagine if you want the Sapphire or one of the more expensive models, good luck at $599. That is not going to happen. What they're going to be, I don't know. And that's probably down to those board partners, because they're going to have a problem if they price them exactly the same price as the 5070 Ti, which I'd imagine they're going to want to. They might not sell them. If they price them at the price that you should be buying the 5070 Ti for, but you can't. So if they're at the 750 that the 5070 Ti is supposed to be at, but your 5070 Ti's are more around 1,000, then that might work out for them. So, and obviously they're going to have more stock. They will have the stock. They've had a lot more time to build up the stock, and certainly as far as what I've known since the time that I've been in the UK, the AMD GPUs aren't set aside for pre-built. So obviously the websites that you buy your GPUs from in the UK, all of them have their own pre-built systems, and they sell these GPUs to the general public, but they also sell pre-built, and they make more money on their pre-built. So if they're getting in 100 GPUs of a certain model, they want to keep some of those back, and they want to keep the majority back to go inside their pre-built, where they're going to make more money than just putting them on the shelf and selling them out. That doesn't happen with AMD in the UK. They hardly ever have AMD pre-built. You obviously have pre-builts with AMD CPUs, but they don't have a large amount of AMD systems with AMD GPUs. So they will be more ready available. As far as me buying one, I think we've just seen, without any shadow of a doubt, that FSR 4 is only coming to RDNA 4. And that sucks, because at this moment in time, the XDX has become a mistake for me. I understand AMD doing this. I'm not going to throw my toys out the pram. Unfortunately, it's a double whammy, because DLSS 4 came to the 4080, which means that it will be a fine wine situation. For the XTX, it's just had a sour milk situation, unfortunately. It's not going to age like fine wine. Now, something might happen in the future. From the presentation you've just seen, if you understand the presentation, it does sound as if some type of FS4 maybe comes to the 7000 series. I'd imagine it's probably safe to say it's not going to be of the same quality as what you're going to get from the 9000 series. That might be proven wrong in time, I don't know, but at this moment in time I've seen nothing to suggest that either FSR4 will. There was no mention of it in the presentation. It was very specific that it would be for RDNA 4. It was very specific. It was for the 9000 series. There was no mention of it going backwards. And the way that they obviously explained it in the presentation was about the new AI cores that they're using on the 9000 series. So, other than a crystal ball, make that what you will. Now, I'm going to explain probably in a fair way. I'm going to show you a quick example because upscalers mean quite a lot to me. They don't have to mean a lot to other people, but they mean more to me because I play at 4K and I like my eye candy. If I didn't like my eye candy, I wouldn't play at 4K. That would be dumb. If I prioritized FPS over visual quality, then I wouldn't be playing at 4K in the first place. But if I'm going to show you a quick example of why a good upscaler makes a difference versus why a not so good upscaler makes a difference. And this is where the XTX for me falls off. So we'll quick go into an example if I can actually get there. Let's go with scene 3. We will go into Horizon Forbidden West where we already have a scene set up. I'm not sure if I've got the right settings. So let's fire this in at. We will go to native TAA. And we will check out this scene, which is a glorious scene. As you can see, the wind is blowing, the particles are flying around, the water is flowing. It has this glossy look to it, translucent, reflective. Everything looks lovely. The problem that we have is we are running at 4K. We love our eye candy, and we've got all our graphics cranked because that's what we want. Looks great. Performance, douche. We are below that 60 FPS, which probably a lot of people like to have as your minimum. Now, admittedly, we are screen capturing. But even then, 60 FPS, is that good enough? We're not even moving at the moment. We're probably not in the most high demanding area. You can probably guess at this point, even if I wasn't screen capturing, there will be points when we're going to drop below that 60 FPS mark. So we want something to help us along. We're on the 4080 at the moment. This looks the same. I've showed a capture of it on the 7900 XTX. It does not look any different. So our options is as simple as that. We're going to go to DLSS. We're going to set it to quality, which is nothing crazy, but it is going to give us that performance boost. So up we go. We're now at 77 FPS, and the image has remained looking as good as... Now, if you screenshotted it and you zoomed in fucking 500% and you see something, I don't really care, because from what I've just changed, it still looks fantastic. It still looks good. The water running over that little stream just next to her head looks glorious. It looks glossy. It looks translucent. There is nothing in this which is standing out to me that makes me think I've got any type of visual degradation. I've just got some extra performance. Now, I'm not saying that I haven't lost something, but whatever it is I've lost, I don't care, because the performance that I've just gained is good enough to me that I'm like, I'm going to take that performance. I'm going to enjoy that extra performance. If I want to, I can now VSync it to 60. I'm never going to drop below 60 now. Happy days. Now, Unfortunately, the problem that I've had, and the other thing I will say is, when you're at native, the 7900 XTX and the RTX 4080, for their most part, certainly in the last year or so, have been relatively on parity at raster performance. The 4080 has probably led for the last part of the year. The 7900 XTX probably led more when they were closer to launch. But for me, it's an insignificant difference. It's not enough. If they're within 5 or 6 FPS of each other, that doesn't matter. To me, that's insignificant. What we've just seen is a performance lift from below 60 to up to 75. That's significant. So what I've just been able to do with the NVIDIA GPU, which is add some extra performance and still look good, that to me is more significant than if the XTX was 2 FPS more at native. So we're now going to go into what we would do with the problem that we have. DLSS isn't available, obviously, on the AMD GPU. So we'll look at what they have had available. Now, I'm not going to go through all of them. I can't remember. XES might look better. So there may be an option for the AMD to use that. It's not always the option, and it's not something that I'd want to rely on anyway. I know that I'm always going to have DLSS, or 99% of the time I'm going to have DLSS, and I'm pretty confident at this point from running a NVIDIA GPU for the last 2 years, it's going to look good. So we're going to use the same thing with, obviously, AMD solution. We're going to put that on, and instantly you can see we've had a degradation. Now the water next to her head or above her head has all gone funny, pixelated, smeary. It doesn't look as nice, and the floating particles in the screen now are all ghosting all over the place. So we've got that extra performance kick, but to get that extra performance kick, we've now lost visual quality. Now we're playing at 4K and we're playing at ultra settings because we love our visual quality. But to get the performance on this side, we've just had to take a loss in visual quality. And that is the problem that AMD have had. Now, hopefully they will now fix that with FSR4. So we've just seen the presentations, and with FSR4, it looks as if, from the presentations, which wasn't huge, admittedly, I want to come back to this in a minute. Now, the presentation didn't really help with what was said or what was shown. Let me just see if I can scan through it. Where is it? It was this guy that was talking about FSR4. We don't want volume on that because things will go crazy. So I think realistically, the problem is he only showed, I think if we go to, sorry, I wasn't particularly prepared for this. So obviously here you can see developed for AMD RDNA 4. I don't know if it already said something here. Why it's got subtitles, I don't know. Let's get rid of those. It goes on to basically say it's only available for that. And then there is like a couple of things like here where it shows this. The problem is this is just like a obviously stationary screenshot. This isn't really particularly giving us a great deal of information. You can tell, if you kind of look at it, you can see that there's detail loss here. There's probably in native, there's some detail loss. There is a higher amount of detail in this image. Now, how it holds up in movement is probably going to be more important than how it looks stationary. This is apparently at native, and this is apparently at performance mode at 4K. Judging by that, FSR4 should be incredible if that's down at performance mode and it's holding this much detail, if it still looks like this on movement. If it turns into a complete and utter flickering mess on movement, then who knows? So, unfortunately, not a great deal of information was given to us on that. And as far as performance goes, so let's go to the scale. So they actually did do the 5070 Ti performance. And this is up 4K. We're going to Tech Power Up and we'll try and figure out exactly where this actually puts this GPU, judging by where it says it is. So I'm going to assume that yes. I mean, it's obviously faster in... Why have they put that like that? It's a strange place to put it. Okay. So it's obviously faster in Call of Duty. That's fine. That's expected. Call of Duty massively works better on Radeon GPUs. I've kind of said from the start, if I was a massive Call of Duty player, I would probably take the extra performance that you will get on a Radeon GPU. Because if you're a Call of Duty player and you're after performance, you probably also don't care about visual quality. So that's if that was the game that I cared about, and if that's the style of play that I went for, that would make a reason for the AMD GPU. Now, when you're kind of looking at the rest of it, you've got kind of parity in these games. We're going to kind of have a look, because this is going to tell us how it's going to compare also to the XT and the XTX in a moment's time. So it's still not up with the 5070 in ray tracing, apart from Far Cry 6 and Spider-Man 2. Apparently in Spider-Man 2 it's just above. How much of a performance hit Far Cry 6 has in ray tracing? It's a shame they didn't do a Far Cry 6 in raster, which would make me think that it would be well above the 5070 Ti in raster. Strange decision there. But anyway, obviously you've got some that will fall behind. Why that much on Stalker is strange. I don't understand why on Stalker it's that far behind the 5070 Ti. Obviously, at this moment in time, if you look at this and you think, okay, you're paying $1,000 for a 5070 Ti and you're paying $600 for the 9070 XT, it makes the 9070 XT look well worth it, especially if FSR 4 works incredibly well. That just comes down to what you can buy on the market and what price you pay for it. Because as far as it goes, when you look at obviously the losses and the gains, you'd probably say then they're pretty close on parity. Obviously, if you take Call of Duty out of the equation because you don't care about Call of Duty, then you're probably going to say you've still got maybe a bit more performance, certainly in these ray traces. I mean, Avatar isn't... I didn't think Avatar was very high on ray tracing. What level of ray tracing this is, I don't know. Is this Cyberpunk path tracing? I think Star Wars Outlaws obviously has different levels of ray tracing, and then it has full RT, I believe. Avatar, I don't think has much, and it has some inbuilt ray tracing. I'm surprised it falls behind that much in Avatar. I mean, don't get me wrong, 8% isn't huge. So, I mean, realistically, it comes down to the price. If you're getting a 5070 Ti at around 7, I know in certain places they aren't available at the moment. This isn't the argument. If you got it around the 750 mark and you know that you can rely on DLSS 4 and you can rely on the features that you're already used to using on the NVIDIA GPU, you get this at 750 or you're paying 600 for the 9070, that at 750, that at 600. I don't think many NVIDIA users are going to go over to that at 600. I also don't think you're going to buy that at 600. At the same time, I don't think you're going to buy this at 750. So it all depends. If this starts selling really well, you will start to buy the 5070 Ti at 750 because it will just come down in price. It's not so much down to NVIDIA, it's down to the board partners. If they can sell them at more than what the RRP is, they're just going to do it. Asus and MSI and all the rest of them, it's more money to them. If they can get away with doing it, they're going to do it. And you're going to have the same with the 9070 XT. So let's actually have a look, because Dragon Age Veilguard tends to get looked at. So the 9070 XT should be the exact same performance at 4K. I wonder where that puts that. Let's go to Is there a 5070 Ti? Okay, let's have a look at the 5070 Ti TUF at 4K. Dragon Age Veilguard, there we go. That's handy. So, yeah, it's going to put it above the XTX at 4K with a better upscaler. XTX is done. If that's the case, the XTX is done. Interesting. So, I mean, if that's the case, the XT is done. If that's the case, the 4080 is done. To be fair, it's got DLSS 4. I'd still trust it more than FSR 4. But who knows? FSR 4 might be great. But if that is the case, then it's above the XTX. If they are saying at 4K it performs the same as the 5070 Ti, then it's above the XTX. Interesting. Now, admittedly, this is the Asus. Are they comparing it with a very low model? Let's have a look. Let's have a quick look and see if there's a model that performs worse than this. And if so, how much that changes it. So if we go down to... Let's go to a Galax. I mean, Galax might perform well. I don't know. Let's go to the Galax and see if there's a huge difference. At 4K... No, it's still above the XTX. There's nothing in it. It's pretty much the exact same. So, there you go. There's now no raster advantage with the XTX, but unfortunately, you now do have a lesser power draw at 300 watts. So you're not using as much power. You're getting the same performance or more than the XTX, and you're gonna have FSR 4. That's a kick in the teeth, unfortunately. That's a kick in the teeth for the old XTX. So the other thing that I did notice, which I thought was a little bit funny, it did make me chuckle a little bit, is this. Because the Nitro Plus is the model that I would probably go for. But I wouldn't be surprised if you're paying £800 for this. I wouldn't be surprised. But look what it's coming with. It's coming with the good old 12-volt HPR pin. So that might cause a little bit of controversy. 300 watts, it should be all right. I don't think it's going to start catching fire or anything like that. But there we go. That's another kind of interesting thing that I did notice. So I don't really know what to think right now. Do I want to go with AMD again? I want to check it out. I want to check out FSR 4. I don't want to rely on what other people are going to tell me, because I'm going to be quite honest, I don't trust what other people tell me. There are people certainly in social media that like to, from what I'm concerned, overhype things too much in some kind of NVIDIA versus AMD battle, and I don't particularly trust some of those people any longer. So am I going to buy one? I probably am, but price dependent, I don't know. I don't like buying the lower end models, and I get the feeling to find one at the 600 price point, it's going to be one of the lower end models. I'm certain that you're still going to end up buying one of these cheaper than what you're going to buy a 5070 Ti. For the most part, it's going to perform similar. It's still going to be behind the 5070 Ti in ray tracing. And then it boils down to FSR 4. I think FSR 4 is so important, certainly for me anyway, at 4K. The other thing that I will say, which is a slight worry, is have AMD done anything within this? Nothing was particularly mentioned. Have they done anything in this to lower their own VRAM use? Because in a situation where I was trying Indiana Jones the other day. I was running Indiana Jones, and I was doing a comparison between the 7900 XTX and the 4080, and when running path tracing at certain settings, the NVIDIA GPU was using around 14 gigabytes of VRAM. The AMD GPU for the same settings was using 17 gigabytes of VRAM. Now, obviously, the 9070 XT is a 16 gigabyte of VRAM GPU. It would not be able to perform with those same path trace settings. Now, whether it can even do the path tracing, I don't know. We've just seen the graph there that obviously AMD have put up. That doesn't really, there's so many different levels to what that ray tracing performance could be. I don't think that's particularly given us all the information we need. So it's going to come down to benchmarks, waiting for obviously third-party benchmarks at this point. If you want to grab one of these, it might be a little bit awkward depending on where you are, because by the time you get your benchmarks, they might have sold depending on how late the reviewers are waiting for their product to do the benchmarks, which sometimes is very late. So I don't know. I mean, the $600 price is great. That's a hell of a GPU if that's performing over the XTX for $600. And obviously FSR4, I'm not convinced I'm going to be able to get one at £600, because generally in the UK, whatever you are in dollars, we are here in pounds. So if you're $600 in the US, we're £600 in the UK. I'm not convinced that I'm going to pick one of those up for £600. Definitely not the model that I'd want to buy. That's on me. Obviously, that's my problem. I could buy a cheaper model, but I'm exactly the same when I'm obviously buying NVIDIA GPU. I don't buy the cheaper models. If I'm going to pay that much money for a product, I'll pay that bit extra and get the model that I actually want, that I think is a better quality model. If it costs me an extra 100 or 150, so be it. I'm a bit dumb when it comes to money like that. I'm happy to admit it. So that's kind of my thoughts on it at the moment. I mean, the only other thing that I thought, which was a little bit, I don't think they should have put this in. I was watching it on Vex stream, and the amount of people that said the same thing, probably not AMD's brightest move. Now, whether it's because it was on YouTube and it was low quality, or it came across low quality on Vex's thing, but if we go back to the video, where was that thing that they put through, this toy shop thing? It looked terrible. Which guy was yapping about it? See if I can find it. Was it this guy? Yeah, okay. So he was going on about this toy shop thing. And then they did their new version. And it looks very noisy on the surfaces. So you can see a lot of smearing and strange stuff going on there. But the ghosting was like here and streaking behind. It's almost as if they quick threw this up because they're like, whoa, that doesn't look good. You can kind of see the ghosting there, but you see like the amount of ghosting that trails behind his arms there. And then as he moves off of there until they obviously throw that stuff up. I don't think they should have put this in. Personally, I don't think it looked very good, or they should have just uploaded it in far better quality than that. I mean, admittedly, have I got... No, they uploaded it in 1080p. Like, why are they doing that video in 1080p? Very strange decision, but... I mean, to be fair, if it was 4K or 1080p, it probably doesn't matter. In fact, if it's at 4K, it's probably actually then going to show up more of the problems than if it wasn't. So, I don't know. That was a bit of a... I think they might probably... And it's expected. I think they're probably still going to have... You know, ray reconstruction has only just started getting better. So, it would be unfair to expect that obviously... You know, AMD are going to come out with a like-for-like comparison of that type of product so early on. It's going to take them a little bit of time which is perfectly expected. But yeah, anyway, like I said, I'll probably grab one. I'll grab one because I want to try out FSR4. I'm pretty... I understand it didn't come to the XTX. Unfortunately, that now puts the XTX at a bad buy for me. Yeah, I think now the 9070 XT is going to offer me personally with FSR4 a better experience than what the XTX is going to be able to offer me. So it kind of, it's done the 4080 has obviously had its improvement with DLSS 4, whereas unless something happens, I don't know. It doesn't look like it's going to happen in the way of FSR 4 for RDNA 3. Then, unfortunately, that puts the XTX. It wasn't a fine wine moment for the XTX, unfortunately. Yeah, sucks, but it is what it is. So that's it. I'm gonna leave it there. Let me know in the comments what you think. Price, really good. Do you think it'll be available at that price? I'm kind of... I don't know. I think the lower models will. I think some of the other... I would not be surprised if you see some of the lower models, or one model. I reckon there'll be one model, which will be 599. And then I reckon there'll be some models that might even be as high as 900. I wouldn't be surprised. Because at this moment in time, XTXs are still available in the UK at 900. What's going to happen there? Because you're not going to sell an XTX at 900 if the 9070 XT beats it in, or at least matches it in raster performance, beats it in ray tracing performance, and then has an upscaler that the XTX doesn't have. And it does all of that 100 watt less. I know which GPU I'd be buying for £1,000, and it wouldn't be the XTX. So let me know in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next one.